call this meeting to order. This is the St. Tammany Parish Zoning Commission meeting of July the 5th. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Casabon? Here. Mr. Lauren? Here. Mr. Richardson? Here. Mr. Richard? Here. Mr. Willie?
Here.
Mr. Manella? Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Fitzmaurice? Mr. Doherty?
Here.
Mr. Drum? Mr. Randolph?
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. All right. The first item on the agenda is announcements. Please silence your phones and pagers. Of course, very few people have pagers today. If you want to appeal a decision that we make, there are appeal cards over here to my right on the podium so that you can pick one up and turn it into staff, and it will be appealed. Same thing's true with speaker cards. If you wish to speak on any item, please pick up a card and turn it into staff so that we have record of you speaking. Public speaking is 10 minutes each side with a 5-minute rebuttal. If after your case, please exit the building. Don't go out in the lobby and have conversations out there because the sound echoes back into the chambers here. Please rise for the invocation by Mr. Randolph.
Heavenly Father, once again, we come to you to say thank you for watching over and protecting us, our families, our homes, and this community. And gracious Father, we ask that you continue to bless us, bless this commission, bless those that we represent, bless all the residents that we serve, and bless our government as a whole. And all these blessings, Lord, we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Richardson, will you do the pledge for us?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God save America.
All right, in the packet, the commissioners had a copy of the June 6th meeting. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to review them. If there are any corrections to be made, please let me know. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
By Mr. Randolph, second. Second by Mr. Drum. Let's see, we're going to have to vote by hand, I believe, right, Don? All right, so if you do not concur with the motion to approve, please raise your hand. I see no hands raised, so the motion carries unanimously. Staff, do you have any cases that need to be postponed? Thank you. All right. First item on the agenda is 2017-659-ZC. The existing zoning is A1 Suburban District with a rural overlay. The proposed zoning is a A1 Suburban District with a rural overlay and adding a mobile or manufactured housing overlay. It's 1 acre. The petitioner is Patrick Cyprian. The owner is Carrie L. Cyprian and Troy T. Jones. Parcel located on the north side of Verga Road, east of Louisiana 25, being 1303 Verga Road, Folsom, Ward 2, District 3. Staff?
Got it? Okay.
Yeah.
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential and agricultural uses. Staff does not have any objection to the request. Staff recommends that the request for a manufactured housing overlay be approved.
Thank you. Is the petitioner in the audience? Apparently the petitioner is not here. Anyone wish to speak for this change? Anyone wish to speak against? I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commissioners. Mr. Willie?
Mr. Doherty, I move for approval.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Willie, second by Ms. Casabon to approve. Please vote. Anyone voting no, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Just so y'all know, we've got an entirely new system here that I'm trying to learn, and I think all the commissioners, and there'll be some other changes coming next week, and I guess probably 2 weeks on, be all fully functional. Okay, thank you. Next item is 2017-660-ZC. The existing zoning is A1 Suburban. Proposed zoning is A2 Suburban District. It's 12.5 acres. Petitioners Yuri J. and Roberta F. Mishu and Wendy Mishu. Owner is Yuri J. and Roberta F. Mishu and Wendy Mishu. Parcel located on the east side of Myers Road, north of Fitzmaurice Road, Ward 3, District 2. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses. Staff feels there's no compelling reason to recommend approval, considering the property is surrounded by A1 Suburban District. Note that the objective of the zoning request is to allow for the site to be subdivided as shown in the attached survey. Staff recommends that the request of A2 Suburban District be denied.
Thank you. You've got a number of speaker cards on this one? Just a moment, let me get the mic on. All right, thank you. It should be on. And you are?
My name is Ure Michaud Jr., and this is my wife, Roberta Michaud.
Okay.
Okay, and this is a 12.72 acre parcel, and it's actually on the application, it was on the second page, but there's my son lives on the property too. Okay, he's Ure J. Michaud III. All right, so we're coming here to ask for a spot zoning. We've owned the property at 30 Myers Road since 1979, and we've lived on this property since about 1980. We raised our 2 children on this property, and in 2002, we donated 1.25 acres to our son, Ure J. Michaud III, and also donated another 1.25 acres to our daughter, Wendy L. Michaud. So there are 3 homes on this parcel now. And so this request to change the zoning to A2 on this land parcel will not change the land use. What our purpose is for doing it at this time is that it's to extend the property lines of the land surrounding our children's homes. There are only going to be the 3 same homes on this property, and this is intended to clearly designate which land parcel each of our 2 children who are living there now will inherit after our deaths. We recently updated our wills with Roy Burns, and he suggested us to do that. We had no idea this property wasn't zoned appropriately because I guess we've had it so long. After our deaths, Parcel A, if you're looking at the attachment, would contain our home on 1.58 acres, and Wendy, our daughter's home site, will contain 3.55 acres, and Parcel C, our son's home site, will have 7.39 acres. When we had just come in to talk to about the land use and development, Kara had helped us with that, and she said that the appropriate zoning would have to be, to do what we wanted to do, would be A2. And this is not going to affect anybody else's. All the surrounding parcels may be zone A2, but I bet you a lot of them may be in the same predicament that we are, is that this was all rural and then, suburban agricultural. And I guess recently they've done some type of thing to change this. So, well, we're trying to look for the future, and actually Roy Burns had suggested that we got to get the use in place. So we also had talked to Dennis Sharp about it, and, we were so sorry to hear, he's passed away. We had talked to David about it, though, and we explained to him what we were trying to do, and he said he would support us in this. So.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Do you have any other comments?
No comment.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of changing the zoning on this from A1 to A2? Anyone wish to speak against changing this zoning? Okay, I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commissioners. Would any of the commissioners like to speak on this? Ms. Casabon?
Mr. Randolph was first.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. Ms. Michaud?
No. Let's do it.
Come back to the podium, please.
Yes, sir?
Yes, a few minutes ago, you was explaining subsequent to your death, God forbid, you were going to divide the property, and you said the 1.58 acres will be yours, and then you shared the dimensions that would be for your daughter and for your son.
Yeah.
Can you share those again with me?
Oh, sure.
Because they're not matching what's on the plan.
You're looking at the testamentary survey?
Yes, I'm looking at.
Oh, okay. Well, that survey shows what they own now.
Okay.
And then it also shows what would be bequeathed to them. So that's why you have to almost look like my daughter's would make a perfect rectangle. My son's, just because of and then ours would be shortened. You see, we shorten ours so that my son cuts all that grass in the back. It's a big, open area with a pond. So he cuts all that, and that kind of goes to a lower land. That's why he has more, just because her land would be. Okay, you see that part that says Wendy Michaud Reed, 1.24 acres? She owns that now, and it shows her house on there. So she wanted to get the pond and then go all the way back, and then that whole Myers Road side she would have, up into his driveway that exists right now. You see, that's just an example. So it's like an overlay of what's owned now and what would be those bequeathed to him.
Okay.
And he said, the attorney said that's how we would have to describe it. I mean, that there's going to be attached to our will, how we want to divide up that land.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that
Thank
okay?
you. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have to
That's
put up
it.
my hand. I think you still got me on.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is not fun. Is it my turn? All right. This particular area, if you'll notice, we do have some smaller lots, even though this particular area is an A1. Changing this to the A2, so there's no way that they could, after dividing it, that you could, the right-of-way is what I'm saying, is Myers Road. I think this is wonderful planning on parents' part to think ahead to do this for their children, and the A2 would fit that particular area, and I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
Works better if I turn my mic on.
It's confusing.
All right, I'll repeat that. Ms. Casbon made a motion to approve, seconded by Mr. Randolph. Any further discussion? Anyone wishing to vote against, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item is 2017-664-ZC. Existing zoning is A2 Suburban District, proposed zoning A3 Suburban District. It's 1.74 acres. The petitioner is Katrina Stigler. Owner is Victoria and Brian Minto. Parcel located on the northwest corner of Antler Street and Sticker Street, being Lot 30, Deer Haven Subdivision, Ward 6, District 11. All right.
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses. Staff does not see any compelling reason to recommend approval, considering the site is surrounded by parcels of land zone A2 Suburban District. Note there are 2 existing residents on the 1.74 acre parcel of land. The objective of the zoning change request is to allow for the site to be subdivided into 2 parcels. The staff recommends that the request for A3 Suburban District be denied.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here? Yes, please come to the podium. State your name and address.
My name's Katrina Stigler, and the address is...
Just a moment. No, the mic is on. You just need to speak up a little bit.
Katrina Stigler,
Okay?
29523 Antler Street, Lacombe, Louisiana, 70445.
Okay. And so you're asking that the zoning be changed from A2 to A3
Yes, sir.
for what reason?
It's family property, and my parents were trying to donate my portion that my home is currently on to me. In the instance that something is to happen to them, it be in our name or in my name
Okay.
already.
All right. Very similar to what we just had.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor? Anyone wish to speak against? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Davis, let me find you here. There we go.
Yes, as the commissioners know, several years ago, when we rezoned basically the entire parish, we knew this was gonna happen. When people would come up from the suburban agriculture area, this is an extremely remote area too. That the families were gonna leave their properties to their siblings. It's unfortunate that the size isn't 2 acres, where we could have left it, A2, but I'll make a motion to approve. I see no problem in this.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Davis, seconded by Mr. Willie. Any further discussion? Anyone wish to vote against? I see no hands go up, so motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, next item is 2017-665-ZC. Existing zoning is A2. Suburban District, proposed zoning is A4A. It's 1.835 acres. The petitioner is Jason Van Halen. The owner is Linda R. Fusell, Nancy Roddick Brewer, Lauren R. Barrios, Karen Roddick Centils, Stephen P. Roddick, Colleen Verneuil, Eric Roddick, Vicky Roddick Frame, Ralph H. Roddick, Claudia S. Roddick, Robert Roddick, and Kenneth M. Roddick. Parcel located on the northeast corner of 6th Avenue and Soul, Ward 3, District 5. Ms. Helen, you're on.
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses. Staff is not completely opposed to a change in zoning category, considering that the site is abutting smaller lots zoned A3 suburban on the north side of the site along 6th Street. However, staff feels that a request to rezone the site to A4A is not appropriate, since it would create a significant increase in density in the area. Note that the abutting zoning district allows for a lesser density, the A2 zoning for a maximum of 1 unit per acre, and the A3 zoning for a maximum of 2 units per acre, which is a considerable increase compared to the A4A district, which allows for 6 units per acre. So at this time, staff would like to recommend denial of the request for A4A. I would like to also bring up to your attention that there's an attachment showing what the petitioner would like to accomplish and the reason for requesting the zoning change.
Thank you. The petitioner, Jason Van Halen, are you in the office? Audience, rather? Office.
Yes, sir.
Please state your name and address.
Jason Van Halen, 68420 Bodie Avenue, Covington, Louisiana.
All right, tell us why you're wanting to do this.
Well, coming down 6th Avenue, there's 4 or 5 lots that are the identical size of these lots I'm proposing, but they were zoned at a different time, so they're considered A3, but they're identical size lots that I'm proposing. Also, there's going in light of some of the citizens around the area, they got some issues with flooding waters. I have a solution to that. I don't know if Miss Helen has that yet. I did some flood research that I looked at putting some swales between the lots for retention to help with flooding in that area. That's really all I got.
Okay.
Is there any? And I'm also going to connect to the water and sewer. That's right down the road, and we're going to have,
Central water and sewer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this change? Anyone wish to speak against? Yes, ma'am, please come forward and state your name. You can go ahead, state your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Hood. I live at 69359 6th Avenue in Covington. My property is located directly across the street from the property that Mr. Van Halen is trying to develop. I prepared a little drawing for the members of the rezoning committee to review. I would like you to take a look at that for me for just a minute. Let me say from the onset that I am not opposed to the concept of rezoning. I've done it myself a time or two. What I would like to make you aware of is the fact that we have a very serious drainage problem on 6th Avenue. We're at the lowest point on 6th Avenue, and our water has no place to go except for, if you will look at the little drawing that I prepared for you, the blue shows the water flowing in the ditches through the culverts across what has been a drainage servitude for the last 20 years that I have lived on my property. And although it's not recognized by the parish as a drainage ditch per se, this is where our water has to go. 100% of my water has to go through this property to be able to get out and to go away. And I would like for you to consider the drainage impact that this rezoning is going to give us. I think that if it's properly done and the engineers of the parish or somebody comes up with a plan that will dig the ditches where they need to be to take the water away from us, it will help everybody. Not only the ones that are already there that have a drainage problem, but also for the new properties that are going to be developed. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, ma'am. We'll, once we get the motion back up to the commissioners here, that's when questions will start. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
There were several other hands go up. Yes. Somebody come on up and state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Eric Rodick. One of the owners of the property. Years and years ago, I actually lived out there. I never saw it flood. But I will say, behind the property, there was they called it a drainage ditch, but really what it was, decades ago, was a fire break. And it was to stop a fire. That's all it was. There's 2 acres. There's houses that are on smaller lots all around it. There's Diana Court, Joyce Court, these cul-de-sacs that are actually on Hellenberg. Those have multiple houses on it. Where we're talking about is actually a higher section. As you go down Soul Drive, it does dip down a little bit more. But I lived out there for a couple of years, several years, and I never saw it flood in that area. The original drainage ditch follows 6th Street, but the fire break, when the bulldozers dug it, maybe 20-something, almost 30 years ago, they started at the ditch and just went through the property. So somewhere along the line, somebody said it was drainage, but it's just a fire break. That's all it is.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Terry Turner Mars. I reside at 69213 6th Avenue. I have lived there since 1995. So I've been able to witness what has gone on in this particular area with the continued growth that we have had, not only along Hellenberg, but along 6th Avenue itself. I do concur with Ms. Hood's observations. I travel every day to downtown Covington to work, and when it rains like it did for this most recent event, we are going through flooded streets. So again, I would ask you to please consider that, because not only is it just these 5 houses or 6 lots, but we have a lot of things going on around us, which is causing the use of concrete, use of materials that is going to cause that water to have to go somewhere. And right now, it's collecting in that area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Please state your name and address.
Pat Lowy, 69363 6th Avenue. My property is right across the street from this request, and we are living in a wetland. It's not objection to subdividing, but it's being sensitive to the fact that most of the land drains to right in front of our driveway. We have only 35 feet on 6th Avenue, and it is truly one big mud puddle. When it rains, we go through water in our driveway and on the street. We have a culvert that butts up next to our driveway under 6th Avenue, and it drains to the property that's being requested to be subdivided. But without that, the culvert is actually going into that property. Without that drainage, I'm just afraid of what we would be going through. So I ask you to please consider that this is maybe too much development in this land, covering up too much of the land that's draining now, but also to consider what we'll be going through if this drainage is not addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, there was a gentleman. There he is. State your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Philip Fasulo, 20577 Soul Drive, and I own the property just behind where they're planning to develop. And my main concern is drainage, but also the amount of traffic in the area. Soul Drive is a through street that connects from Highway 59, and it connects to Hellenberg, which of course connects to Highway 190. So we already have a lot of traffic problems back there, and also the drainage is really bad. And my house is actually probably the lowest point on the street. So my front yard ends up being a retention pond, whenever we have hard rain. And we moved here in 2006, and there was a hurricane, I think it was Isaac, right after that. And the flooding for this last rain event was actually worse than what we had for the storm. So there's all this development that's happening, but there's been no drainage improvements since I've been there. I mean, they do come around and they dredge the ditches, but there's been no additional culverts or anything significant to help the drainage back there. So, you know, the drainage is the big thing, but also want to talk about the traffic and all the development on Hellenberg. So, you know, I don't see where in this case, the redivision is necessary.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? All right, I'll close it to the public, bring it back to the commissioners. Do we have a commissioner who wishes to speak on this? Mr. Richard.
Even prior to the testimony, reviewing the staff's report, looking at the density in the area, I could perhaps support an A3, but I'm not comfortable at all with an A4 zoning, and I'm going to move to deny.
All right. We have a motion by Mr. Richard, seconded by Mr. Lauren. Is that correct? All right. Any further discussion? Please vote, and vote, if you raise your hand, that's a vote for. So I'm looking for nobody to raise their hand if you're voting no.
Wait a minute.
I
think I said that right, but I won't swear to it.
If you agree with my motion, don't raise your hand.
That's correct.
How's that sound? Very good.
If you don't agree with the motion, raise your hand. I see no hands raised, so the motion to deny carries. Thank you. All right. Next item is 2017-667 ZC, existing zoning's A1 suburban. Proposed zoning is A1 suburban with a manufactured housing overlay. It's 1 acre. The petitioner is John and June Luck. The owner is June and John Luck. Parcel located on the south side of Bessie Booth Road, east of Booth Road, Ward 2, District 3. Staff, which one? Okay.
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential and agricultural uses. Staff does not have any objection to the request to rezone a 1 acre site to manufactured housing overlay. Staff recommends the request be approved.
Thank you. Mr. and Ms. Luck, are you present? Are the Lucks in the audience? All right, sir, please state your name and address.
Bo Killingsworth, 13114 Joseph Road, Folsom. That's my stepdad, Mr. Luck, there in England right now. But it's basically a rezone for my sister to move back from Natchez, and that's what they're looking to do. So,
okay, and they're just wanting to add the manufactured housing overlay to allow for a manufactured home.
Right, right.
Okay.
So that's where we're at with it.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor? Anyone wish to speak against? Yes, ma'am. Yes, come to the podium and state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Gail Least. I live at 13065 Bessie Booth Road in Folsom. I'm actually across the street from this property. We just bought our house there just a few months ago. One of the things that I investigated before we ever signed a contract on this house was if mobile homes were allowed in that area. There's actually a 2 acre piece right behind us that I was concerned that somebody might put a mobile home on. And I was told that you couldn't have them in that area. My other concern with this 1 acre piece is part of a huge tract of land, I don't know, 40, 50 acres. So once you allow one mobile home, well, why not 100? So I just don't know. Obviously, it was zoned this way for some purpose. in the beginning, I don't know what makes this so special that it should set a precedent for the rest of the area.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
There was another person that wanted to speak. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address.
Vicki McGowan, 78603 Booth Road, and I'm directly across the street from this property too. And I have the same concern that if 1 acre is relegated to this mobile home, whether the whole 40 acres could become a mobile home park. It's a beautiful rural road. I've been there for 32 years, and it's the same thing. I love this area. It's a beautiful area, has a lot of really nice homes, and I think it would really, really impact the quality of our neighborhood and the rest of our properties of people that we want to live there forever and ever. And the thought of having a mobile home park would be devastating.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak against? All right, we'll go to rebuttal. Gentleman over here, do you have any comments?
There is no intentions whatsoever of developing the property as far as a mobile home park or anything of that nature. I've lived there all my life. I used to live on Willie Road and Booth Road, a horse farm there. That's my stepdad. That's not his intentions whatsoever. This is a situation where my sister's moving back to help, take care of them as they get older. Other than that's as far as it's going. There's no intentions whatsoever of making some type of trailer park or some type of subdivision. He's just not that type of a guy. So.
All right, thank you. Those speaking against, would you like to have something to say as a rebuttal?
Okay, I understand what he's saying. I'm sure that might not be their intention now, but, I mean, who knows? I'm not saying they really want to put a trailer park, but if you make it okay for this 1 acre, well, then what if somebody else needs to move back and another family member needs an acre, and on it goes. It's just a huge piece of land. So I know that's not the intention maybe to develop it that way, but once you allow one, then you can't really deny any other ones, can you? That's just my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll close the floor to the public and bring it back to the commissioners. Mr. Lauren.
Staff, the quality of the picture that we've got, I can't tell from it in the packet. Are there any other mobile homes in the area?
I'm not really sure on that property, no. There used to be
No, I'm talking about in the area.
yeah, I think there are some.
General vicinity, not necessarily right next door, but there are some in the area.
In the general area.
There was a homestead there, actually.
You need to come to the mic.
I'm not trying to drag this out anymore, but there was an existing home there years and years ago when Mr. Luck bought the property, and it was subsequently tore down. So it's been vacant probably longer than these people even realize. But that was an existing house there on that piece of property where the little section they're looking at. So it's not, it's not. What's that? Yeah, it's like a modular home, I guess. Right.
Ms. Casbon.
Yes, Bo, is it your dad and them's intention for her, is she gonna eventually build there, or, what is the long-term plans? And
she's going through a family issue at this point. I don't want to get into a whole lot of that, but yeah, it's kind of a situation that if something happens to them, he has no intentions on developing. This just come up.
Oh, I know.
Right,
I'm right there. I know the area really well.
Right. Well, I used to cut Miss Bessie Booth's yard when I was a kid, so I know the property well. I've been knowing it. It's just a hardship.
She was my great aunt.
Right.
But it is a situation that we have mobile homes approximately, I'd say, a quarter of a mile from Bessie Booth Road.
Well, there's
The road
actually
is
one,
kinda
when you
long,
cross the old
you know.
Jordan property, Mr. Cotton,
Right, they
there's
have
there's a
more
mobile
crops.
home in the pine trees there.
But we don't have any other ones on that particular road. I just
Probably
wonder with
not.
the long-term, and staff, I have a question for you, that, do we put any time limits like we used to do with the conditional uses? We don't do that kind of stuff anymore, that, in the event. And with the overlay, would she have to meet, it'd be the modular home?
It's 40 acres, yeah. It's,
Right.
right, and their concern, I think, I understand what they're saying, they think that,
Wait, sir, please.
Oh, he can't.
Let the staff
Okay,
answer the
all right,
question.
all right.
Yeah. Yes, it is, Mr. Luck has, it's one of our premier horse breeding farms is there, summertime, I
Yeah,
think.
Summer Hill.
Summer Hill. And this is, there's a homestead, Bessie Booth Road splits it. He actually bought this 40 acres. And I know him very well that they do not intend on making this a habit or putting homes on it because he's using it for horses and stuff. But just that I don't know of any other ones on that road, that I was wondering if we had any other stipulations that would give them some comfort that this is not ongoing.
Rule, you know, there's a maximum of 3 mobile homes on the same property. Then
Right.
that's the maximum before it turns into a mobile home park, which there's no intention on doing, on moving forward with that. So, and, you know, they're not trying to move forward into making another request, but for that site.
Right. And also with the caliber of the farm that he has and his own place there, that it would not be just a trailer. He would have it landscaped and
Yes, ma'am.
it would fit into the particular area. I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Ms. Casabon to approve. Mr. Willie, you had your hand up?
Well, that was one of my questions. Was the staff, Mr. Luck owns 40 or 50 acres. This is only on 1 acre, the overlay is. And it would take anything over 3 mobile homes, if there was ever an intent to do a mobile home park, they would have to come before us again and ask for a mobile park type zoning. Yeah, because we want to protect that area. We're not looking to make a mobile home park there at all, so. Yeah, I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Casabon, a second by Mr. Willie. Any further discussion? Please vote. And the vote, if you vote no, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. All right, next item's item 6, 2017-668-ZC, existing zoning A4 single-family residential. Proposed zoning is A4 single-family residential plus a manufactured housing overlay. It's 0.42 acres. The petitioner's John B. Castle IV and Charles A. Vickner. The owner is John B. Castle IV and Charles A. Vickner, parcel located on the west side of Annette Street, north of Tracy Drive, being Lot 5, Square 2, Oaklawn East Subdivision, Ward 7, District 7. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses, including manufactured home. Staff does not have any objection to the request. Staff recommends that the request for an MHO manufactured housing overlay be approved.
Thank you. Or is the owner here? Is someone here representing the owner? I see no one coming forward. All right, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Mr. Davis. Hang on just a second. There we go.
Yeah, I know this area very well since I live out there in Lacombe. I'll make a motion to approve this.
We have a motion by Mr. Davis to approve. I heard a second from Mr. Willie. Any further discussion? If you vote against, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 7, 2017-679-ZC, Existing zoning is A1 Suburban District. Proposed zoning is A1A Suburban District. It's 9.84 acres. The petitioner is Mary Beth Sessions and Dorothy Collins. The owner is Mary Beth Sessions and Dorothy Collins. Parcel located on the north side of $1 Million Road, east of Honeysuckle Estate Loop, Ward 2, District 6. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan designates the site as a conservation area for the preservation of natural landscape and natural systems. Staff feels that there is no compelling reason to recommend approval, considering the site is surrounded by large parcels of land, Zone A1. The objective of the request is to allow for parcel B1 to be subdivided into 2 lots. Staff recommends that the request for A1A be denied.
Thank you. Is Mary Beth or Dorothy Collins? Dorothy? Okay, please come forward, state your name and address, please.
I'm Mary Beth Sessions, 69430 Fair Oaks Lane in Covington. And this is my mother.
Dorothy Collins, 177 Emerald Pines Court, Mandeville, Louisiana.
Okay. Please let us know why you're wanting to change the zoning on it.
We purchased this parcel with the purpose of building 2 homes on it, one for myself and one for my mother. And my sister-in-law and my brother purchased the parcel next to it on the east side up against it, and they're going to build 1 home. So our purpose was to each, have 3 houses on the 20 acres. It's almost 20 acres, 9.84 for each side. So we're just a little short of being able to do what we wanted to do. So that's why we want to rezone it, so we can all take care of each other as my mother ages and we age. And also on the west side of us is Honeysuckle Estates, and those are 1 acre lots that are butt up against our property.
All right. Thank you. Let's
Thank
see.
you, sir.
All
I'd
right.
like to add something.
Okay.
I'd like my house to be able to be more than 1,000 square feet. I'd like to have a garage. If it stays like it is, it's going to have to be 1,000 square feet, and that's it. That's what I understand anyway.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, anyone else in the audience wish to speak in favor of this zoning change? Yes, ma'am. Come forward and state your name and address.
My name's Vaida Collins. I live at 69430 Fair Oaks Lane in Covington. And I'm the sister-in-law she's talking about, so we bought the 10 acres right next to it. So like she said, we're going to have 3 houses. We'll have one on our 9.84, and they just want to subdivide theirs into 2. Okay? So like she said, Miss Dot's aging, sorry. And we just want to all be real close and take care of her.
All right, thank you. Yes, come forward.
So we have my brother and myself, and then we have 2 other siblings too, and that was why my mom wanted to have it where it's divided. So when she passes away, it would be easier. Her part wouldn't be connected to my part. So we have that going as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anyone wish to speak against? Seeing no one, I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Ms. Casabon.
Yes, very familiar with this particular area. I know the staff is talking about the preservation conservation area. This area was hit with pine beetles less than 20 years ago, and we couldn't find out who owned the property. So nice to meet y'all. I don't know who you bought it from, but it would be a lovely spot for the house. And it is right, the Honeysuckle Estates are 1 acre or less right next door. So this is an asset. So I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Casabon to approve, seconded by Mr. Randolph. Any further discussion? Anyone wishing to vote against, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, item 8, 2017-681-ZC, existing zonings of PUD, Plan Unit Development Overlay. Proposed zoning is A2 and Plan Unit Development Overlay. It's 90.62 acres. Uncas Favre is the petitioner. The owner is Favre Investments. Uncas Favre, parcel located on the west side of Penns Chapel Road, south of Louisiana Highway 22, Ward 4, District 4. Excuse me. Ms. Helen.
I'd like to suggest to hear the next case, 2017-682ZC, and vote separately considering that it's the same site.
Okay, let me read it into the record, and then we'll hear the presentation on both of those, but they'll be voted on separately. This is 2017-682ZC. Existing zoning is PUD, Planned Unit Development Overlay. Proposed zoning's A2 Suburban District. It's 90.62 acres. The petitioner's Uncas Favre. Owner is Favre Investments LLC, Uncas Favre. Parcel located on the west side of Penn Chapel Road, south of Louisiana Highway 22, Ward 4, District 4. All right, go ahead, Helen.
This site was actually approved to be developed as an 85-acre unit residential site in 2007. And now the petitioner is coming back in front of us to request a zoning change to A2 Suburban to establish the underlying zoning, and also to submit a revised plan for a total of 49 single-family residential lots suggested to be developed in 3 phases. Phase 1 and 2 are proposed to be accessed through a boulevard-type entrance from Penns Chapel Road and from a separate 2-lane drive for Phase 3 of the subdivision. The proposed subdivision meets all the PUD requirements, and staff would like to recommend approval for the A2 Suburban request to establish the underlying zoning, and also recommends approval for the Plan Unit Development Overlay.
Thank you, Helen. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Paul Marone on behalf of Mr. Favre and Favre Investments, LLC. It's the owner of the property. As Ms. Lambert noted, this property is 90.6 acres. It is actually behind or south of Fairview Oaks Business Park, which fronts Highway 22, and this property is along Penns Chapel Road. A history and a little bit more detail than Ms. Lambert just gave you. The property, as we sit here today, is zoned as a planned unit development. It was zoned as a planned unit development back in 2005, and again in 2007. The same plan was reapproved by the council. That plan allows for 85 units on the property, 64 townhome or duplex units, and 21 single-family residences. Our request this evening really is to amend that PUD, but because the original PUD in 2005 and 2007 was approved under the prior code, there was no underlying zoning. So it requires us to come in and establish that underlying zoning and then present the PUD amendment or the PUD overlay that you see before you. We're proposing as the underlying zoning A2, which, as you know, is a single-family residential zone. It has a maximum density of 1 unit per acre. So that A2 underlying zoning is the same or less dense than much of the surrounding zoning. If you look at the zoning map that is attached in your packet, you will see that immediately adjacent to us to the east is A2 and A3, and just a little bit further to the east, down Bigner Road and Scotch Pine, you see some A4 zoning. So we believe that the A2 is very consistent with what you see in this area today. With regards to the PUD plan, you'll notice that we are not proposing any townhome or duplex units whatsoever. We are eliminating those or proposing to eliminate those from the plan, and we are asking for approval for only single-family residences. In addition, we're only asking for 49 units. That is 36 fewer than is currently approved for the property. So under the A2 zoning, a maximum density for this tract at just over 90 acres is 67 units, perhaps some more if you did a yield plan, but again, we're only proposing 49. That is a density of 0.54 units per acre, or almost 2 acres per unit. So it is a very modest density. The green space on the site is 57%. We have about 52 acres that are being preserved. And it's important to note that no lot or roadway in the development is in the wetlands. The only area that is being developed on the entire site is the non-wet portions. We are not even including in the lots the non-wet, the wet portion. Many other projects that have come before you, you have heard, well, we've got a buildable site that's outside of the wetlands, but maybe to get a certain size lot, you will include some of the wetlands. We're not proposing to do that. Our lot lines end at the wetland line as determined by the Corps of Engineers. Furthermore, as is required under the PUD ordinance, and as you know, we will have central utilities to the site. As to the wetlands, this site was delineated some time back and approved by the Corps. In anticipation of this meeting, we have updated that determination, so there is a fresh determination that coincides with the wetland lines that you see on the plan before you. Back in 2005 and 2007, when this project was previously approved, there was concern about the property being subject to inundation. And I will tell you what I told the commission back then. Some of you were here. I don't know if you remember that, but the area that we are proposing to develop is non-wet. I know that's repetitive, but it is non-wet. It is not subject to inundation. In fact, what we professed back in 2005 and 2007, we have been able to prove in 2017. It was our contention back then that this land was no different than the land that was immediately adjacent to it, that there was nothing special or magical about that property line. That in fact, as you go down Penns Chapel Road and you look to the east, what you see there is consistent with what is on the west, which is my client's property, except my client's property had not been developed. Well, now we have the benefit of LIDAR, which can give us topographical information for the entire area. And what that LIDAR map tells us is exactly what I told this commission in 2005 and 2007, and what I'm going to reiterate tonight. There is nothing magical about my client's property line. The area that we are developing, that we are proposing for the lots, is equal to or higher than the elevations on the property adjacent to us. Now, understand, anytime you are going to be building homes in this area, we're not proposing to put these homes on fill, as some of our neighbors are. You have regulations that we will abide by. These homes will be on piers. They will meet the finished floor elevation of FEMA and the parish, and there will be parking underneath. Very similar to what you see in other areas like this, whether it's Mandeville, whether it's Madisonville, whether it's portions of Lacombe or portions of Slidell. No different. So you will have raised homes and you will have parking underneath with a finished floor elevation that is either at 11 or 12, which is set by FEMA. So we would respectfully submit to you that an A2 zoning in this area is absolutely consistent with what is adjacent to us, if not less dense. I would also submit to you that at 0.54 units per acre and 36 units less than is currently approved, this plan is suitable for approval. We are deleting the townhomes and duplexes, which we know was a source of concern for people back in 2005 and 2007, and we are only developing the non-wet portions. Your staff has reviewed our request and has recommended approval. We would ask respectfully that you concur with that recommendation and that you approve the underlying zoning at A2 and the PUD overlay for the plan that is in your packet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morone. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll go to anyone who wishes to speak against. We got a gentleman getting up. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
John Robertson, 301 Penns Chapel Lane, Mandeville, Louisiana, 70471. I wish everything Mr. Morone told you was true. I drive by this every day because I live on Penn Chapel Road, which would, lane, which intersects with Penn Chapel Road and the entrance to part of this subdivision. It is subject to periodic inundation. The road at that intersection floods when we have heavy rains, and particularly when we have a weather event, which seems to come more, more often than ever. So it is subject to inundation. There's no question in the world. This has been kicked around for more than 10 years before you all. We have photographs of people standing in there in weather events with water up to their knees. And this is not on the road. I mean, this is on the road, not even in below the road. So it's just not true that it is not subject to inundation. If we put another 49 houses in there, that's going to be probably 98 automobiles that are going to dump out onto Penn Chapel Road, which is the only road in and out for probably 5 subdivisions. It's going to create a traffic nightmare, unfortunately. The road is not wide. It cannot handle a truck and a fire engine passing each other. We documented that before. As I say, this case has been kicked around and kicked around. One of the problems that we have is the plan that has been submitted to you does not have the 5-foot contour line on it. And if you look at the parish ordinances under definitions in the St. Tammany Parish Coastal Zone Management Ordinance, the 5-foot marker is what's going to tell us what's wetlands and what is not. The plan doesn't show that. They have a 6-foot contour marker. That doesn't really help us with anything. Although I have to say I'm in favor of less density as a 1 unit per acre, we still have serious problems with traffic and with inundation from rain and weather events coming into the lake and pushing the river back up. When the river gets pushed up, it all goes right into this property. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak against? We'll go to rebuttal. Mr. Morone? I'm sorry, we just, the lady got up just as you wish to speak against? Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you very
State your
much.
name and address.
My name is Julie Gilbert. I live at 311 Penns Chapel Lane. Probably 40 years ago, we first started coming over to the North Shore. We camped at Money Hill and so on, and fell in love with the North Shore and wanted to move. My husband was a city employee. We were not able to do that. It took us a very long time to finally get over here, and we love living in St. Tammany Parish. This proposed development would absolutely destroy our neighborhood. There's only one road to get in and out, and it's a very narrow road, which is absolutely wonderful. To have all of these dump trucks, cement trucks, brick trucks, whatever in the world you can possibly think of coming down these roads, I don't know how we're going to get in and out. With 22 being only a single lane road, which I absolutely adore, since the reason I wanted to live over here was because I did not want to have highways or lighting or sidewalks. I mean, I think most people that live over here want a quiet atmosphere, and I know that's very selfish. But trying to get out of our subdivision now is a nightmare. I can't even imagine with 49 other homes trying to get in and out of Penn's Chapel. So I respectfully request that you deny this. I know these people have this property all of this time and they want to do something, and it's of course a much better idea, you know, just to have single family residents, but that's not going to eliminate all of the other problems that that's going to cause. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we'll go to rebuttal. Mr. Morone.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Just a few comments in rebuttal. First, I think it's important to point out that we don't come before you tonight with a tract of suburban agriculture zoned land. or a tract zoned for 5-acre lots. We have to take the property as we find it this evening, and we find it this evening approved through 2 council actions for 85 units. And what we're proposing is to reduce that density by 36 units. So it's important that that be taken into consideration, because a no vote, if you decide this is not the appropriate plan or underlying zoning, results in the existing plan remaining. So we don't go from what we're proposing tonight to nothing. We go from what we're proposing tonight to what it is tonight. And I think what we're proposing tonight is better than that. With regards to statements that I gave you earlier not being true, I'd respectfully submit that the facts support what I told you. And the LIDAR doesn't lie. You can hear all of the testimony that you want, but the fact of the matter is the LIDAR doesn't lie, and there is nothing magical about this property line. This property that we are proposing to develop is at the same elevation or higher than the properties that are developed next door to us. Now, with regards to the pictures of the person standing in the water, for those of you that weren't around back then, there was a picture about that. That gentleman was standing in the ditch. And it wasn't a fire truck, let's see, it wasn't a truck and a fire engine that couldn't pass. It was an SUV and a school bus couldn't pass. To disprove that, I went and rented a school bus. And I put it out on the road for an entire afternoon. And I stood there and I took pictures that I showed to the council of that bus passing SUVs all afternoon. So the facts do support what I'm telling you. In addition, that road has been widened and improved since 2005 and 2007. It is in better condition today than it was when the project was originally approved. With regards to the traffic, as you well know, that will be dealt with in greater detail in the planning process. Suffice it to say tonight, I would respectfully suggest to you that 85 units will produce more traffic than the plan that is before you this evening. With regards to the coastal zone, it is my understanding from your staff that it is now, Mr. Robinson was right, back in 2005 and 2007 when we were dealing with this, the 5-foot contour line was sort of the magic mark. And in fact, I believed that was correct until I met with your staff, where I was told that now they wanted to see the 6-foot contour line. That's why you see that on the plan. Be that as it may, remember that a coastal zone permit is similar to a Corps of Engineer permit or a water quality certification. These are all separate and distinct permits that this body doesn't issue, but that we are required to go get from the appropriate body at the appropriate time. That time is not at zoning. So again, A2 underlying zoning, where we're next to A2 and A3, less density than the plan is that is approved before you, and also staying out of the wetlands, preserving the sensitive areas. We believe that the plan tonight is a better plan. We believe that it is suitable for approval. We ask that you concur with your staff and respectfully request approval of the underlying zoning and the PUD plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Roan. Mr. Robertson, do you have any further comments? No, I don't. All right, thank you. Ma'am, do you have any further comments? All right. I'll close the floor to the public and bring it back to the commission. Mr. Davis. All right.
Yeah, looking at this new PUD, and I do remember the old PUD, to be honest, I think it's a much better land use design. I do like the idea of having a smaller single-family homes out here. I do like the idea they're all going to be raised. There's going to be no net fill out there. So from that point of view, I think the land use is okay for this. Now, again, as Paul was indicating, if this doesn't pass, they could always go back and build an 85-unit subdivision here, which is something I think we made a decision to do that in the past. So with that being said, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Davis to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Randolph. Any further discussion? Mr. Richard.
We're good to go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I think the underlying zoning that's being requested is appropriate. What I want to go on record is saying, and I'd like to push this to the council going forward, is this is 2 months in a row where we've seen PUDs that were approved 10 years ago that are coming before this body today, long before our time. And we're being held, I don't want to say hostage, but hey, we can build this 1,200 unit PUD because we've approved it, or we'll build this 65 unit PUD. Well, obviously the 65 is better, but the whole concept of a PUD being approved a decade ago and then it can be resurrected, I have a problem with. And I'd like to find a way that we can change an ordinance that these things expire, because things change. Traffic studies change, drainage changes, density changes, et cetera. You've seen me support a lot of growth in this community. And in actuality, this is, like you said, Commissioner, this is a better plan. I don't know if it's a better plan. I haven't seen the old plan. We didn't get that in this packet. So I do recognize that a traffic study is going to have to be done. I understand it is a major concern in that area. So we'll just wait and go through it. So I really, the point of my comments is we need to somehow see if we can't get an ordinance passed that these things expire. If you don't break ground in a few years, it's over. Because quite frankly, we're at a disadvantage today having to essentially approve something that we may or may not have wanted to approve. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Richard. Mr. Lloyd.
Paul, could I ask a couple of questions, please?
Yes, sir.
Is the only access to this property going to be down Penn's Chapel?
It is. Yes, sir.
Okay. And the houses are going to be built up on piers, as you mentioned, like they are in Madisonville and Mandeville and whatnot.
Correct.
That's good for the insurance company because it raises the contents above the flood level. But there'll be 40-something homes back there that people will not be able to get to or get from. And like Todd just mentioned, that concerns the heck out of me. If you go right on down Highway 22 to some of the most expensive homes in St. Tammany Parish, those that are built right on the river, right by the boat launch. Mm-hmm. Every time the water comes up, those people can't get to and from their homes because it floods. And it's not the houses that flood, it's the access to the houses that floods. And I'm concerned about building, whether it's 80-something homes or 40-something homes, that we build that many homes where people don't have access to their houses. They're landlocked.
Well, I would make a couple of points to that. First, obviously, people that will live here will choose to live in that area, much as they do in the parts of Madisonville and the parts of Mandeville and the parts of Slidell. Now, the roadways here, the interior roadways will all be at the 5- and 6-foot contour line, which is actually higher than the roads in the area where you're talking about, for example, down in Madisonville. So you should not picture that these roads, or for that matter, Penn's Chapel Road, goes underwater all the time. Is there an event that would come out of the Gulf that could cause this to the roads to flood? Yes, that's a possibility. As it is with much of Mandeville, Old Mandeville, and parts of Madisonville. But it is not a regular occurrence, and so it would not be a regular occurrence for these homes either. These would not be any different right? Other than perhaps a little bit higher than some of those other areas in Mandeville and Madisonville.
Well, directly across the street from this, last week, you know where that executive retreat building is? On the north side of 22?
Yes, I think I know what you're talking about.
There's a beauty parlor that's built back in there that my wife goes to. Last week, with a relatively minor rain, the beauty parlor had that deep of water in it. Okay.
It's a good point, but let me make a distinction for you there, and this is important. This is important. This area is on the south side. The area on the north side is subject to the riverine flooding of the Tchefuncte River. And that is the water, when Cindy came in and backed up the water in the river backed up, which produced that flooding. This property is tidal in nature. It is not subject to the riverine flooding. It is subject to tidal water coming in from the lake, but it is not subject to the riverine that you would see on the north side. So those type of events would not have the same impact here. The events that would affect this property would be tropical type events that would push the lake into areas of Mandeville and so forth. It wouldn't be the result of the lake coming up and the river expanding.
Okay.
Mr. Lauren, you have any further questions?
No.
All right. Mr. Randolph.
Paul,
Yes, sir.
Penn's Church Chill Road? Penn's Road?
Penn's Chapel Road, yes, sir.
Chapel Road?
Yes, sir.
According to the drawings, I know you said that it's been improved, it's been resurfaced or whatever. With that many units, and also with the residents that's there now, would you say that that road would be able to accommodate that? And who, I guess, before you answer that, who actually services that road? Is that a state road, parish road, or what? Yes,
It's a parish road.
parish road. Will Penn's Road be able to accommodate the services needed for those residents?
I would say yes, and to give you a frame of reference, before Penn's Chapel Road was improved and widened, so it's better than it was then. But Penn's Chapel Road was the same width or wider than many other roads that you are used to approving developments on. Perilou Road, Bigner Road, Penn Mill Road, all of those collector roads, Dummy Line Road, Brewster Road before it was widened, all of those are typical collector roads. And Penn's Chapel is consistent with each of those. Each of those roads that I just mentioned to you have far more home sites and residences that use them for access than Penn's Chapel will if this project is developed. So I would respectfully suggest to you that yes, it can accommodate it.
I do concur with what Mr. Richard and Mr. Lauren was alluding to, but what Mr. Richard said, in that there are some things that we as the younger guys on the commission was not privy to. However, we're kind of caught, not necessarily caught, but we're kind of responsible, and we're committed to make a decision of something that's already been approved, but yet it has been reduced with less density. That really puts us in a tougher position. Hence, at this point, it's a better plan. It is a better plan. So.
Thank you, Mr. Randolph. Ms. Casabon.
Mr. Paul?
Yes, sir.
Did you say this was, the old plan was approved by 2 council motions?
Yes.
So in other words, we didn't like this plan, the plan back then, and it was brought before, just to let the younger guys know that we had problems with this back then, and it was the parish council that overrode our decision to deny, and they saw fit to approve it. But this is a better plan than what was approved then. So just to let you guys know that we did have a lot of thought put into this for many years, and sometimes we are overruled by the council. So with this plan, did you make a motion, Mr. Davis? Okay, we got a motion and a second. Okay.
All right, thank you, Ms. Casabon. Yes, staff, Helen?
We'll have to make 2 motions. Was the first motion for the underlying zoning?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this would be 2017 682 that you would be voting for first.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Jimmy, is that what you?
For 682?
Right.
Yes, I'll make a motion for the underlying zoning to be A2.
Okay. All right.
I'll second that motion.
Second by Mr. Richard. All right, 682 is the PUD, the underlying zoning going to A2. Okay, and that's what we have on the floor now, is that motion. All right. If you're opposed to the motion, please raise your hand. I see none, so that carries unanimously. All right, on 2017-681, we need a motion and a second on that.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by,
PUD with the underlying zoning of A2. Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second on 681 to approve. Anyone wishing not to approve it, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. Item 10 is 2017-683 ZC. Existing zoning is A3 Suburban District. Proposed zoning is A3 Suburban District and Manufactured Housing Overlay. It's 4.03 acres. The petitioner is Betty Alexis. The owner is Terry Silv, Betty Alexis, Irene Silv, Crystal Daugherty, Loretta Cryer, Cleveland H. Cryer, and Sheila Laurent. Parcel located on the south side of Sycamore Street, east of 24th Street, Ward 7, District 7. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with single-family residences, including manufactured homes. Staff does not have any objection to the request and would like to recommend approval.
Thank you. Is the petitioner in the office, Betty Alexis? Anyone here representing? Please state your name and address. You need to pull the mic down too.
Thank you. I'm Terry Silv. I live at 62149 Silv Road, Lacombe. And I'm the one who's going to put the trail on a family property.
Okay. And you're simply wanting to add a manufactured housing overlay
Yes,
for one trailer
yes,
or one manufactured home? Excuse me.
yes.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against? I'll close the floor to the public and bring it back to the commission. Mr. Davis.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Davis to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Richardson. Any further discussion? Anyone wishing to vote against, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Item 11 is 2017-684ZC. Existing zonings A1 Suburban District and RO Rural Overlay. Proposed zoning is CB1 Community-Based Facilities District and Rural Overlay. It's 1,502 acres. The petitioner is Jason Yancey. The owner is the Refuge Development LLC, Casey Mayfield, William Mayfield, Jason Yancey, Steve Pomazano. Parcel located on the east side of Louisiana 1129, north of Semalusa Drive, south of Washington Parish line, Ward 2, District 6. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed as a planned district with single-family residences and conservation area. Although the requested zoning change does not meet the 2025 future land use plan, staff does not have any objection to the request, considering that the allowable uses under the CB1 are limited to golf courses, recreational facilities, and places of worship, which are compatible with the rural character of the area. And at this time, staff would like to recommend approval of the request.
Thank you. All right, anyone in the audience going to speak in favor of this? We have Mr. Yancey as the petitioner. Yes, sir. You, Mr. Yancey?
Yes, sir.
All right. Come forward and state your name and address, please.
I'm Jason Yancey. I live at 15001 Denninger Drive, Covington, Louisiana.
Okay.
I'm Casey Mayfield, 81124 Chanel Road in Folsom.
All right, thank you. Tell us what your intent is to do this.
Our intent is to do exactly what's been done on the property for the last 30 years. The property's always been a four-wheeler, and there's horse trails, and there's probably 20 miles of trails on the place that's always been there. And we just making it what it really is.
Okay.
Legit.
All right, thank you. Any further comment? All right, you probably have some in a minute then. All right, anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning change? Anyone wish to speak against? Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Bill Hope, 365 Arrowhead Lane. My property is in the back of what he's trying to do. Now, what I understand, really, the ATVs that they want to put or try to put as a park, would understand. I moved to the North Shore, to Semalusa, for peace, quiet, and darkness, okay? This is going to cause noise 7 days a week. Potential of the tracks when it rains is going to flood, mosquitoes, ticks, you name it. I'm totally against it. I think it's going to depreciate the value of our homes in Semalusa. Semalusa is not a normal subdivision. We have horses, beekeeping, and other farm animals. I think it's going to be a problem. Plus, Lee Road is not that big for that much traffic to be coming in and out. And I think potentially you're going to have trailers, overnight stand. I'm just against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Cox Couture, and I live at 321 Highland Crest Drive. I live in the Highland subdivision, which is directly across the street from the entrance of this development. When I originally bought my land, this was supposed to be a residential development with minimum 5-acre lots, houses comparable to those that you see in Semalusa and in the Highlands. We understand that the developers now want to put campsites for overnight stays, and they want to put in trails like they said. Our concern is the size of the property. Many of these others, ATV parks, are 200 and 300 acres. They're in industrial areas, they're off interstates, they're not right next to residential areas. The noise out there is going to be just unbearable. I can go walking in my subdivision now and hear gravel trucks when they're going down 1129. You put hundreds of ATVs over there, and you imagine the noise. Our concern is what happens with the growth and development of that ATV park. That's 1,500 acres. There's nothing to stop the growth of that for nighttime concerts, for these mud fests that they have, these weekend-long mud bogs that they have. I've never been to one, but looked them up on the internet. There's a lot of traffic on that end of 1129. Since living there, I've come out of my subdivision and found 2 cars flipped upside down because they fly over the hills out there. We have to assume that there'll be alcohol and loud music. What time constraints are going to be put on that? How is that going to be policed? And then what is it going to do to our quality of life and our property value? Very concerned about it, very concerned about the size of this development and the fact that they don't want to just make it a campsite, but this ATV park with all of these trails and just the number of people that are in and out of there and the impact that it could have to our community. And I ask you to please give some serious consideration. I'm very surprised that the council is looking to approve this because you do have developments like Semalusa, which is a very large subdivision with lots of large homes, and as the gentleman said, there are horses over there. The impact to this, just even on the animals at night with all the night rides that they will have, it is just going to really, really diminish our quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Brett Lenny, 506 Tartan Trace. I also live in the Highlands. And to touch on a few other things, Stephanie really kind of put forth most of the things that go on within these ATV parks. I have a concern of a few different things. First off, this property drains off under 1129 into the lakes that we have just north of our neighborhood, okay? I know for a fact, I've been to ATV parks. I have no problem with ATV parks. I have a problem with them in our quiet and peaceful community. I also have a problem with, I have witnessed firsthand these ATV riders, they sink their bike, they sink their truck. First thing they do, they dump the oil out. They put some more in, they run it, they dump it out. Then they put some more oil in it, crack a beer open and get going again, okay? That property drains into us, Semalusa, and when it goes through our lakes, it ends up in Bills Creek. Then it ends up in Semalusa Creek, which eventually makes it to the Bogafalaya. So you got pollution issues there, okay? Trash. They don't take out what they bring in. It usually stays there, okay? Me, when I've ridden at these parks, I take everything out I bring in. Most of the time, that doesn't happen, okay? You're gonna have increased traffic on Lee Road. We've discussed alcohol use. You're gonna have impaired drivers on Lee Road, on Fairhaven, Section Road, all of those areas, okay? I don't want my family on the roads with impaired drivers. I'm sure y'all don't either, okay? One other thing, currently right now, the A1 zoning, it is my understanding based on the zoning A1 that they're 5-acre minimum lots. We changed this to CB1, they do an ATV park. Hey, we're not making money. Let's rezone it. Rezone it A3, A4. Now what do we have? High-density neighborhoods. Doesn't match with what's over there already, okay? So I'm definitely 100% against it. I'm also the president of the HOA of the Highlands, and the majority of the residents that are not here, I've received emails and I've received phone calls. Majority of the residents are against this, and I ask that you don't approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak against? Yes, ma'am.
I'm
Please.
Kathleen Fabian at 340 Arrowhead Lane in Semalusa Estates. And a lot of what I would say has been covered, but the crux of the problem is rezoning it to the CB1. I've never heard of anything an ATV park may go under. You know, in 10 years, is it going to be there? Probably not. Maybe, but maybe not. I've never heard of anything being zoned back into the residential or the suburban with rural overlay. So once we lose that cushion, that security that we had when we moved out there, that this was going to remain a suburban rural outlay, we'll never get that back. So this is kind of a worst-case scenario with an ATV park, with the pollution, the noise, it changes. It is not in keeping with what we have moved out there for, and I think it's should be sensitive to those around them before it's rezoned. They do not care about what we have going out there and why we moved out there and the investments that we have made out there. I'm a beekeeper. It will affect me. It'll affect many of the people around, the livestock, and the quality of our life. I also think that zoning it, allowing it to be rezoned is something we can never get back. And I don't want any part of a commercial, a possibility that things can go down that path. And once it is a CB1, it could actually get worse down the line. Somebody just has to come in and ask for a rezone. And I'm imploring you all to rethink this and deny the rezoning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak against? Yes, ma'am.
I have a big mouth, so I may not need this.
You still need to use the mic.
Linda
Thank
Roy,
you.
237 Highlands, and we just moved there 4 months ago. And I'm a little bit confused that these two gentlemen, and all this respect to them all, can come up here with absolutely nothing and say, I just want to turn it into an ADV house farm, like it was before. But it wasn't like it was before, because I'm listening that it's zoned residential to put houses in there. This gentleman here comes with all his plans, in fact. Another gentleman before who was denied comes with all his plans, in fact. But these two nice gentlemen has come up and say, this is what we want to do. They're back there laughing at us. It's a nice residential neighborhood. You have Sima Lucy, you have Highlands, you have beautiful homes on section roads, you have horse farms. To me, they look like horse farms on Lee Road. The traffic is crazy to begin with. There's no way they're going to recoup their investment in just an ATV park. Okay, if you're buying 1,500 acres and they're just going to turn it into an ATV park, it's going to be more than that. And it is going to affect the neighborhood. It is going to affect the quality of life out there. People moved out there to a nice, quiet neighborhood, okay, and something like this comes up. So I'm just confused as they can just come up here and present absolutely nothing to you folks and said, oh, this is what we want to do. Okay, you have a lot of opposition here. Some people didn't come. Some people are afraid to get up to talk to. But I think if you look at the people in the audience, everybody's here to speak against this. So please reconsider it. Please don't come up and just approve it. You gentlemen and ladies don't live down there. It's very nice. Come visit us. We just moved there. I'm not crazy yet about the neighborhood. I'm a Harahan resident. You know, I come from, to me, civilization. This is country to me. So I'm trying to get used to it. This is going to affect our property values. It's going to affect the quality of life. So I'm asking you to deny it. Okay? Woo! And that must be my time up.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, just real quick.
Real quick. I just want to say that even if it were zoned for a church, a church can also go under. A church can also, expand and leave a blank. We can never get it back to, I just wanted to reiterate, it doesn't matter whether it was just, I didn't mean to be ugly and say that's the worst case scenario and leave it at that. Even if it were a church, I feel the same way, that we can never recoup the insulation that we had and the quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wish to speak against? All right, we got 2, 3 people. Okay, time has expired. Let me get permission from the commission to extend the time so that y'all can speak. Did any of the commissioners wish to have additional comments? I don't see anyone willing to do that. I think we've got enough comments, so we're going
I think we got our point
to move forward now to rebuttal. The gentleman that, lost him. Folks, there he is. Folks that are petitioning for the change.
Yes, I'm very familiar with Semalusa and Highlands because all these people now are already riding horses and four-wheelers all over the property. I have them on camera.
Order.
There's horses and people riding all the time. I've seen 60 bikes in there in one group before at a time. I have pictures of people all from these places already in here riding. Right now, it's like their personal property. That's why they don't want things to change.
All right, any other comments? Order? Any other comment?
Well, what we're really looking to do is to create a controlled environment. At this point, there's people that are riding out there that, aren't really supposed to be out there. So we looked at creating a controlled environment where people could go ride ATVs, UTVs, and, create camping sites. We were going to control that environment. We're going to create buffers along the property lines. That way people weren't riding right up against, Semalusa. This property is across the highway from the Highlands. And we feel like we can create an environment that can be controlled where people can go ride ATVs, UTVs. And we also believe that it will be a better suited place because at this point in time, they're doing it in an uncontrolled environment and on, private property. But this will be some place that will be controlled.
Okay, thank you.
Even on the Semalusa side, there's already a 125-acre buffer between us and them. And plus, like she said, we have 1,500 acres. We already can create buffers. We'll be hundreds of acres away from them at this point. We're not wanting to ride in their backyards.
Okay, thank you. Order.
Look at the map.
I'm not looking at the map. I see your property, but I'd like to see the 6.
Wait a minute. Hey. Order.
My neighbors.
Sir.
Okay. Well, he just said there's not a buffer. I was showing him on the map. I'm sorry.
We have questions that we want to ask.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. You finished with your rebuttal?
Yes,
all right. Come to the podium.
My name's Bill Mayfield, and I'm one of the owners with it. And I was just going to reiterate there is approximately 125-acre buffer between Semalusa. The entrance that they're concerned about, we haven't even determined if the entrance is going to be across there. There are other areas that meet the road. All those will be done with traffic studies that you don't really deal with at this point, that we'll have to tend with later. I know these people have a big investment. We have a big investment too, and this is still America. And I think that how we proposed it may not have been to some of their requirements. If we did anything to offend you, we apologize. But we do have pictures, and I think the president of the association, we have his picture riding on it also on a camera. So, I mean, it is being used now. It is being used by those people that offend it now. I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was that prior to the no trespass?
They have a minute and 5 seconds left. Any further rebuttal? All right, and I will start with those that are opposed.
James McClendon, 320 Arrowhead Lane. I think it's very disrespectfully come and stand in front of y'all and say they have pictures. Where are the pictures? Where are the pictures?
Wait a minute. You need to address the commission, not
Okay,
them.
well, disrespectful that they would come and say they have pictures of all of us driving on their property. Bring the pictures before you say you have it. We don't ride on their property. I have seen people come through our neighborhood on four-wheelers. Where they come from, I don't know. But they're right. There are people that drive through Semalusa 10, 15 at a time. It's not us. The horses ride in the subdivision. They don't go ride on their property. They should not come here and say they have pictures of us. I've lived in Semalusa 17 years. They don't have a picture of me on their property, I can assure you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Come forward.
Hello, Mickey Wilson. I just bought lot 120 in Highlands. I've lived near an ATV park of this size. They are not small by no means. They are super loud. Concerts, mud bogs. The one I used to use in North Carolina, people would come from all over the East Coast to use it. The noise on the bikes, you could hear them for miles away. It could be a 100-acre, a 10-acre buffer. You're still going to hear it in these beautiful neighborhoods around there. The traffic will be enormous. Like I said, vehicles would come from all over the East Coast to this ATV park. It was huge, and it was about the same size. It took years. I lived there for 10 years, and it took 5 to 10 years for it to get to the size of it was with the amount of ATVs that were there. But it grew fast, and there was lots of traffic and a lot of alcohol drinking, a lot of partying. There were lakes in there. It's a big venue. They get very large.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on the rebuttal side?
Mike Cioni, 238 Highland Crest. Pretty much what everybody else has already said is my concern. Traffic, drunk drivers on Lee Road, noise pollution, pollution in general. But as Mr. Mayfield said, we all have a vested interest in this. So do they. The difference is when we bought our property, we bought it with their property being zoned as it is. They bought their property being zoned as it is. So they took their vested interest. When they bought their property, they knew what they were getting into. And we knew what they had when we bought. I built out there, been out there a year and a half. That's where I plan to retire. I built out there because it's quiet, because it's dark, because I can sit on my back patio and I can hear the crickets. I can hear the frogs. You're not going to be able to hear that. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on rebuttal? Yes, ma'am.
My name is April Lucia. I live at 421 Highland Crest Drive, which is also in the Highlands. Besides echoing what everyone else has said, like Mike said, yes, they have a vested interest and they're in a business to make money. However, when they bought that very sizable property and made that very sizable investment, they knew what they were getting into. Why somebody would buy an apple and think they could turn it into an orange, I'm not sure. But again, a good businessman knows going in what he's getting. The ATV park, yeah, you might have 10 or 15, 20 people from around the area that go and they ride their four-wheelers. I don't even own one. But that is a far cry from hundreds of two-cycle engines with that high-pitched whine noise that you're going to hear for miles. 150 acres, noise is probably from me to you. It's really not going to make a difference. You add in the alcohol use on a road that's already one of the most dangerous in St. Tammany Parish. I can't believe that the sheriff hasn't had something to say about that. The drunk driving is going to be astronomical. Again, we bought out there because it's residential. ATV parks, look them up. They're in industrial areas. They're off of interstates. You wouldn't put an amusement park there. You wouldn't put Six Flags there. That's basically in what they're asking to do. So absolutely, we request that you would deny it without even a second thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Got just a little bit of time.
Real quick.
State your name.
Bill Hope, 365 Arrowhead Lane. From Fairhaven all the way to the Highlands is all residential.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wish to speak on? Yes, sir.
My name is Wayne Frolick. I've been living in Semalusa for 20 years now. We were one of the first ones up in there. There wasn't too many other houses back when we moved in. But anyway, I agree with everything that all these people have said about the dangers of Lee Road and this. But what's going to stop? That area is heavily forested. Yes, there are trails already in there. Some of those trails lead right into Semalusa. And some of them would, I guess, some of them could probably go all the way to Pearl River if they wanted to. But they're strictly against it. I mean, a lot of us are against it.
Thank you. All right. The time is expired. I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Ms. Casabon.
Staff what they're doing now, they own the property, and they said that they're using it for riding ATVs or whatever. That is allowed. They can continue to do that. They came to you, or they're coming to us to rezone it for a purpose of something commercial? Excuse me.
I'm not
talking to
aware.
Staff.
I mean, they are the property owners,
All right,
and that's
excuse
property
me.
owners.
Bill, would you come up? Let me ask you. When Casey said that y'all were going to do what you're doing, are you making this a commercial adventure, or is it for
No, it will
control?
be a commercial adventure.
It is going to be a
Yeah.
commercial.
And St. Tammany does have a 100 to 150 acre park right there off of Highway 40
I know.
closer. Okay.
Very familiar with it.
Yeah.
Born and raised there. With it being a commercial adventure, that, how many acres are we looking at that would be a berm? I agree with the lady that said, I need to see some plans, something that would show what you plan to do with it and how it's going to be built, and I know we don't, this is sort of like you need the zoning first before you invest in plans. I understand that. But I think we need some reassurance.
See, there's already trails that are built in there that gives you some buffers already. But, I mean, it's a commercial area. Remember, you have 3 or 4 or 5 dirt pits right in the same area that butts this land.
They're pretty far out. We have the baseball park, and then we have the dirt pits up at...
There's 900 acres that joins them. This is the same...
That's part of the old
That's all part of that. Correct. I mean, this is not right across the street from their land.
I understand.
They're very confused. Is when we even talk about entrances, we never did plans yet. You're correct. But we thought before we get a permit or a occupational license, we would probably have to do some of that stuff.
Yes.
But this is 5 to 7 to 10 miles from where they are. They don't hear the dozers and the trackhoes and they're logging the area right now. So we're not sure how the trails would do, because we don't want to lose the natural aesthetics of the land. We don't want to destroy it where they do have what they're talking about, pollution and things of that nature. And I hope that we really have a problem, like he said, in 5 to 10 years, because then we probably stop. We'll make that kind of money.
Well, it's not that, it's so much that we need to know as a commission, like you said, with the traffic, with the entrance, how large are you talking about? Are we talking about overnight stays? It's just a lot for that area that I think is a little bit intrusive at this point, even if we didn't have Semalusa or the Highlands on the other side, that it would be really kind of changing the whole area if we see it. If we saw some plans that would show us that, you have a buffer on the Lee Road, you have berm that people can't come on your property. It's just a lot of plans that I would like to see what you have in mind before I could vote on it.
You got it.
Stuff. It's just uncertain, and it is a commercial adventure that, in that particular area, by rezoning it, you're making it, a permanent commercial.
Let me ask you a question, Martha, just from my own personal knowledge. If we put 200 people in there riding four-wheelers now, could you stop us?
That's my point to the staff.
I mean, I don't think you could.
That's what my point to the staff was.
I mean, we doing it, trying to do it legal.
Can they continue to do what they're doing now? That's what I'm trying to get the people to see,
there's two
we have no
sides.
control. You're doing it now without any control.
We're not doing it at all. Other people are doing it.
No, but yeah, it's being done. People's property on both sides is being invaded by these ATVs and stuff like that without any control, which who is...
Do we even have to have it zoned commercial to do that and charge an entry? I don't even think it needs to be zoned that.
That's...
I mean, I don't...
Excuse me.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just
I'm
asking
just
a
trying
question.
to make a point that we need more information that they can continue to do what they're doing now without us changing anything. So the people are asking for them to stop doing something on their own property. So that's where I stand.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martha.
Mr. Davis.
Step back a moment here. The 2025 plan recognized this area to be built with single-family residences. To be able to change the zone.
I believe only half of
I'm not
them.
talking to you, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just stating the facts here. To change this whole night we've been talking about residential and going from A1 to A2, A2 to A3. It's kind of refreshing for a change, not to have to talk about highway commercial, to be honest. But anyway, when it comes down to this situation here, to change 1,502 acres to CB1, it's a big church. Okay? It's a big church. It's a golf course in St. Tammany will not survive. So let's look at it, and we all know now that the use of the land is going to be some sort of ATV track. I don't like that. I think the 2025 plan, as is, had it right for just a residential area. So I can't approve this.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Lorne.
We've said a lot of things tonight, but I want to make sure that I understand clearly what we're talking about. The particular tract of land that we're talking about is 1,502 acres. Not the property down the road or down the street or down the highway. This property is 1,502 acres. And this property today is owned A1 suburban. And the 2025 plan that a lot of people put an awful lot of work into recommended that it be zoned A1 suburban district. And when you change that to what's being requested to CB, that is, Mr. Davis said, that is one hell of a change. And I just cannot support that at all.
Any other comment?
Well, the only comment I would have is, can a piece of property that's zoned A1 be used commercially?
No.
So they could not use it commercially unless I get it zone changed. Okay, that answers my question.
All right, any other commissioners want to speak? Mr. Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess one of the most compelling comments that were made tonight was this property was zoned A1. It's been zoned A1, part of comprehensive rezoning, and people have purchased homes and built their lives around property around them. And anytime we make a change in density or go from residential to commercial, our number one responsibility is to protect those who abut it. And we take that very seriously. That being said, we also understand that there's opportunities for growth in this parish, and maybe this is a commercial venture that has some merit. Unfortunately, probably not in this location. So I move to deny.
We have a motion by Mr. Richard to deny, a second by Mr. Davis. Any further discussion? A vote for yes. Let me see. Yeah. If you want to support the motion to deny, raise your hand. To deny. If you want to deny, that's what your motion was.
Put the
Motion
and
is-
look, and folks in the audience, this is we're struggling a little bit. We've got new technology that's not in place yet, so we apologize. And Dave, you've done a great job trying to make this work. But the motion is to deny. All those who support the motion to deny, raise your hand.
There we go. I believe we have unanimous to deny. Am I correct? Thank y'all. All right. All right, item. Excuse me. Please be quiet and exit orderly. Yes, sir.
Would you just confirm that it in fact was unanimous? I did not see a couple of hands go up, at least from my perspective. Could you just reconfirm that it was in fact unanimous?
Martha, did you? Okay, Hug? Thank you. Okay. All right. All right. Did anyone vote not to deny? Okay. They might not have raised their hand real high, but it was a unanimous. All right. Next item on the agenda is 2017-685 ZC. Please exit quietly. Existing zonings, NC Neighborhood and Institutional District, HC2 Highway Commercial District, and HC3 Commercial District. I'm gonna hold up just a minute. All right, proposed zoning is HC2 Highway Commercial. It's 40,000 square feet. St. Tammany Parish Council motion. The owner is Frank P. Sampera. Parcel located on the north side of US 190 east of K Drive, being Lot 10, Pine Grove Subdivision, Ward 9, District 11. Which one of the staff's gonna? Helen, okay.
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with commercial uses. There is an existing commercial metal building on the site. The objective of the zoning change is to bring the site into compliance with the appropriate commercial zoning district. Staff does not have any objection to the request, considering that the site is abutting HC2 and HC3 on the east and west side. Note that this property was zoned C2 before the comprehensive rezoning, and staff would like to recommend approval.
Thank you. This came to us by Parish Council motion. Is there anyone here in the audience that wishes to support this particular item? Yes, sir. Please come forward and state your name.
My name is Frank Semperi, and I live at 131 Foy Street in Mandeville. And I'm just trying to get this put back the way it was before. It was C2. And all I want to do is get myself back in business again, so that I can. I would like to have it HC2 again, HC Highway Commercial 2. It was C2. This is the second time I'm doing this. In '93, I had to do the same thing because the zoning commission zoned me out of use, so I had to come before you all and get it rezoned back the way it was before. Now I'm doing the same thing again.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right, sir.
Does anyone else wish to speak in favor? Anyone wish to speak against? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Any of the commissioners? Mr. Randolph.
Approve.
Motion to approve, seconded by Mr. Richardson. Any further discussion? Please, please vote. Anyone opposed to the motion, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. All right, any old business need to come before the commission? Any new business? I'll accept a motion to adjourn. All right, thank you.